South, here the University of Leiden and Gothenburg, Leiden University and Gothenburg. And this presentation is going to be by Lima Paleiros, who is a researcher of the Global Studies School of Gothenburg University. Thank you, everybody. So you're all awake. Good morning, the LACNIC community. It's a pleasure.
Antes de começar minha fala, eu gostaria
Start with my talk. I'd like to say that I'm here not individually but collectively, because the results of the research and the research itself are fruit of collective work, very well coordinated with my dear, with the Professor Hortense Junge. And it's an honor as Latin America to be here. I would especially like to thank the entire community of LACNIC, the board, the staff, the technical community in general, because without you, we wouldn't have been able to conduct this study. So I'm going to request permit to please to show this the slides, but I was asked to go quickly. So this is a study on the representations and the perceptions of legitimacy in IRRs in the internet, in the regional registries in the Global South. And what am I going to do here? Well, first of all, I'm going to go to quickly walk you through this introduction and the concept of legitimacy and why it is an important concept. We're also going to discuss legitimacy standards in AFRINIC, LACNIC, and APNIC, and the other internet governance institutions. And what was the problem in research? All the research teams need to pose a question. So this is our research problem. We ask the following question: to what extent and why is it that regional governance is not such? And in the Global South, the non-state Global South can be important in the internet. So we wanted to make sure of the relevance of the three regional registries in the Global South: AFRINIC, APNIC, and LACNIC. So who was involved in this international? Deborah Christine, who's a researcher, and she was the one who focused in APNIC, Gloria in AFRINIC, Hortense was the coordinator, and Yard was the counselor. So in abstract terms, that is, in theory, what is legitimacy? Well, we could understand legitimacy as the perception or the belief that a ruler has the right to rule or is allowed to exert power in consented manner. That would be legitimacy in theory. Now, in concrete terms, in practice, legitimacy for the purpose of this study is the opinion that the southern IRRs have the right to formulate and to manage certain standards for the internet. In this case, legitimacy refers to the underlying trust and the approval of a governance agreement. And what does this mean? It means that legitimacy implies much more than a simple gesture of just a transient consent related to some political actions or even with the leaders themselves. Legitimacy, in this case, has to do with a belief, a deeper faith in the government apparatus or in power per se. So why is legitimacy important? Legitimacy may help a ruler in the case of the IRRs, the president, the CEO of these institutions, to assume mandates, to get resources, to call for participation, to make decisions, and to reach goals, and to move forward solving problems, and to put a brake on the competitors, potential competitors. So maybe the southern IRRs could be more secure, stable, and with a higher incidence in internet governance. So what was our empirical basis? Some people here also helped us build that empirical basis. Well, we conducted 392 mixed method and interviews. What does that mean? Those are open and closed questions. And we asked these questions to former members of the board or the executive council, the staff and representatives of the member organizations, the technical community, and the community in general. The interviews took place between 2022 and 2024, and it was very interesting because we spent 3 years living with the LACNIC community. And what sort of things did we ask? Well, we asked 3 questions. Of the many questions, we chose 3 to bring here. To what extent do you consider that it is important for IRRs to have legitimacy? How legitimate do you think personally that the IRRs run? And to what extent do you trust the way IRRs are run? Let's see the results. Here you see a graph to make it easier. And remember that AFRINIC is in apple green, APNIC is light blue, and LACNIC is dark blue. So we have the question about importance of legitimacy, commitment with the IRRs, and the trust on IRRs. And what can we draw from here? Most interviewees consider that legitimacy is extremely important for the 3 IRRs. The importance of legitimacy is broadly recognized in all the groups of interest, among all stakeholders, and in all social categories. You'll see that. The AFRINIC participants consider that legitimacy is the most important thing, followed, ranking second, are the LACNIC participants, and third, the APNIC participants. Furthermore, as to the results related with the commitment, most interviewees stated that the IRR in which they are involved is very important or quite important. So AFRINIC and LACNIC participants are apparently a bit more concerned about their IRR than the APNIC participants. So there's a slight difference there. And we also observe some variations between the groups of interest and the social categories, especially with regards to the age of interviewees. And I think that that is very interesting. You'll see it later in the charts. The results that have to do with trust in IRRs showed a broad range of variation in trust of the 3 IRRs. As an average, the 3 participants trust more LACNIC, followed by APNIC, and then AFRINIC. Opinions on AFRINIC are, there's a whole range. Some people don't trust at all or very little, and others trust it a lot. And the people outside the IRRs also trust the IRRs quite a lot. And in a previous study by Jan Ardscholt and Hortins Jongen showed that ICANN participants trust a bit more the IRRs than ICANN itself. And that's an interesting thing to point out. And I see that I'm running out of time, so I'm going to try to hurry a bit more. Now, as to this topic, you can go more in depth. The slides will be available, and you can see them more slowly. So let me go faster. I have 4 minutes left. So, well, this last piece of information. In red, we have AFRINIC, and then you have APNIC and LACNIC. The degree of trust is expressed in this scale from 0 to 4. AFRINIC 2.37, APNIC 3.29, and LACNIC 3.54. Now, if you were to, just in closing, after giving you an overview of all the data as the future goals, we have defined the following. We have to determine what accounts for the variation observed in these perceptions about the legitimacy of the participants of the South Global IRRs. I'm going to use my last 3 minutes going back to show you the following. This chart that I mentioned earlier, it's very interesting, and it has to do with people's ages. We have gender and ages. Trust, distributed in these social categories, shows us that in the case of LACNIC, men reach 3.53 and women 3.59. So women trust more in LACNIC than men.
Then we also have broken down by age. In LACNIC 3.56, between 31 and 41 years 3.44, and between 41 and 50 we have here something that was quite surprising, 3.59, and over 60 3.50. So let me go on to the end of the presentation, and if you wish to know more about this, if you wish to make any comments, you can contact us. This is our contact information. I will also be in this event. I'd like to thank you all for your attention. Maybe this was rather fast, but I tried to summarize this in the best way possible. Thank you very much for your attention.